Hey, what's up everybody? I'm your host Phil. Welcome to today's video. In today's video, we're going to check out the latest guitar plugin from Mixwave, which has been brought to you in collaboration with Mike Stringer. Let's roll that intro and then get right into it. As said before, this is Mixwave's latest guitar plugin after they brought out the Benson Chimera and a few other guitar-related plugins out there, which kind of not hit the market that hard as, for example, the stuff from Bogan Digital or Neural DSP and so on and so forth. But I think they now have something which is really cool right in their pocket, and that is the signature plugin from the Spiritbox guitar player Mike Stringer. Now, Spiritbox is a Canadian modern metal band, I would call them. Quite, I wouldn't call them genty or something, but it has a little bit onto, you know, like Sleep Token, a little bit metalcore elements, a little bit ginger in there. I might be talking out of my rear because I don't listen to that kind of music, but that's the impression which I got when listening to a song or two from them on Spotify and also watching a song or two live on Rock am Ring this year. Now, Mike Stringer also played for the band I Wrestled the Bear Once, which is kind of a mathcore band. So he has quite some extensive experience within the industry and the market, and that led obviously to the collaboration with Mixwave, which is now open for purchase on an introductory price of $79, I think it is. When it comes to euros, it's 73 euros, and I would assume that taxes also and so on and so forth are added to that, so somewhere around the ballpark of 90 euros. And with that, it kind of competes directly against STL Tonalities, Neural DSP suites, also the stuff which has been recently released from Bogan Digital, so it kind of falls in that ballpark. Let me quickly switch my monitor setup over here, and then we're going to get straight into riffing and checking out the plugin. All right, so everything has been set accordingly. Before we dive into the tones, let's first talk about, as I usually do, about the user interface of the plugin, about the capabilities of the plugin, so we then can explore tonally what's going on over there. So we have, first off, the, let's say, utilitarian field over here, where we got all the settings, all the things we can do, and then we have the respective modeled piece of gear down below over here. In this example, we got the amplifier over here. There's a lot to unpack with the user interface, so please stick with me through this over here. We got the input section, which is obvious. You can set the input gain. You got a meter here for the input, and you can set it to either mono or stereo. That is already pretty cool from the get-go, that you have this possibility that it can kind of take stereo input signals. Next up, we got the gate, which is set to a respective value over here. Kind of a bummer that you don't have the dB values. I always like the dB values for reference. I know exactly that, for example, in my environment, minus 70 dB is kind of a perfect setup, but it also forces you to use your ears, so not that bad, actually. This over here is to turn on or off the gate. You can click on this one. Now, which is really cool is that there's a transpose feature over here in this plugin. So very similar to the newer Neural DSP outlets, and the latency is actually quite good. I'm not so sure if it was as good as I remember the John Pertucci to be, but it is fairly usable in my opinion. Next up, we got the settings where you can set the screen size and you can set the size as default. And what I really like about this is that you can set the size to a quite small value, because sometimes you kind of just enlarge the plugin and then you cannot kind of get back to the point where you actually set it up a little bit smaller. So that's cool. That's a neat feature. We got a tuner over here, nothing special, just showing how it kind of moves and how it kind of sounds. It works very well. I'm usually very skeptic when it comes to built-in tuners, and I'm very nitpicky when it comes to that, but this tuner works fairly good. You can mute it, you can set up a different frequency, and of course you got your setup over here where you can see how much you are in tune. Next up, we got this preset field over here. Fairly standard from what we know nowadays when it comes to preset management. That's cool. You can save over here the preset. You can open here the folders respectively where you got the presets. So that's cool. Let me put that again away. Next up, we got this about thing over here. And then we got the output section. Now, the output section consists of an BPM meter for the time-based effects like the reverb and I think the delay, more the delay so than the reverb, I think. we got some oversampling. I like to put it on 4. I do get occasional cracks with my Ryzen 5800X when I set it to oversampling 8. So it is a little bit CPU hoggy, especially when recording in parallel with OBS. So I'm going to leave it at 4 so we don't get some cracks over here. Now, this is the output meter over here, or the output knob. And this is really cool. You got an output limiter, which you can set on or off. So you're going to hinder that you get some peaks. As a matter of fact, I'm going to now engage the output limiter because I just want to make sure that we're not getting any sort of clipping on the transients when palm muting or something. So that is pretty cool and already has some unique features. I really like the output limiter. That's a great feature. I like the transpose functionality that it is embedded. I think this should become a staple at some point for all the newer plugins that they just offer this. Just makes life so much easier. And also processing power is not becoming a concern more and more. When it comes to the, let's say, signal chain, we first got input processing where we can set up an equalizer and a compressor. And the same goes for the output processing where we can set up respective equalizer and compressor settings. This is really cool. I like this. This is very flexible. This is something which usually would come into handy when you are, when you are working in your DAW, but this also would allow, for example, to just run this in standalone mode with your interface and your laptop on a live gig, going straight into the PA or into a power amp, and still having a possibility to do some output processing before actually hitting the PA, if you want to set up a high pass or something, for example. Then, next up, we got this dedicated signal chain over here, which consists of an overdrive, one single overdrive pedal, tube screamer style. We got a ring modulator, very weird plugin. I'm going to show it, but I cannot really use it usefully. Then we got a chorus, which is very nice on the cleans. Like that a lot on that one. Reverb, same thing. Quite generic with some cool features, but it's a reverb. A reverb is a reverb is a reverb, right? Then we got the amplifier. Sorry. And this amplifier has actually 3 channels over here. Got one clean channel, watt gun. I got one chuggy channel, and then a little bit more on the fizzy side of things. There's a lead preset, a lead default preset, which is really good using this channel. And then next up we got, let me go back over here, got the cabinet section. The cabinet section is really cool. Going to show that in detail more later, and then we have some delay. Now, the special thing about this signal chain is you can move any block to wherever you like it. You want to have your overdrive behind the amp? Fine, no problem. You want to have your cab before the amplifier? No problem as well. So you have like a ton of flexible capabilities, which you usually would not have if you would kind of run either another plugin or do it with the real hardware. So that's pretty cool. Now, that all out of the way, let's get to the real deal. What does it sound like? Now, this is the absolute or default rhythm. Nothing has been changed on this preset so far. This is what it sounds like, and then we're going to work our way through the plugin, kind of sculpting a thrash metal tone, exploring the other possibilities, and so on and so forth. Yeah, rhythm default. Here we go. That already sounds great. It's very chuggy, very thick, very dense. From a signal chain perspective, because we forgot that. This is my Partscaster guitar with a Seymour Duncan SH-5 in the bridge and a self-wound pickup in the neck position, going straight into my Audient ID 44MK1 interface into the DI input, and the DI input has set roundabout 4 dB of gain. Just that you are aware of, I like to give that information with you guys so that you can kind of relate towards what the gain structure is. I unfortunately do not have any reference dBu values for this plugin, so I cannot set up kind of like exactly the way it's intended to from an input perspective, so I just have to use my ears and what sounds best. And that setting kind of hits right where I like it. Okay, yeah, let's explore again the rhythm default tone, and let's move from there on. Now it's already very gainy, very chuggy, but it is a little bit too muffled for my personal taste. So, as usual, I'm gonna back down the gain dramatically, somewhere around this. Now, I'm gonna take away the lows a little bit. I'm gonna cut the mids and boost the high and the presence a little bit. Resonance, I'm also going to take a little bit back. Let's see what that sounds like. Already tightens things up a little bit. Let me take the low out even more. Okay. Now let me take the low even more, but keep the resonance a little bit higher. That's already something which I could get to working. Maybe a little bit more gain, actually. Let me try out what it sounds like without using the OD. Getting kind of back in that muffled territory as soon as I crank the gain. So I'm going to keep it that way. So I'm going to go to the OD section. I'm going to set it up to the very typical Tube Screamer boost settings over here. So we're going to go, but I like to have a little bit of the tone knob actually. So I'm going to just kind of nearly dime it over here. Turn it on. That's already a pretty good tone. It's a little bit more muffled than my regular boosted 5150 setup, which is kind of my jive, you know, that's kind of my thing. It's a little bit more muffled than that, but not any worse, I would say. It's just a little bit different. It's a little bit of flavor. Might be better for not so super tight riffs, but more like fat chords and stuff like that. I've kind of always fall back into the same thing when playing. But so there's that. All right. Now, that's the OD so far. Let's go through the different settings on the amplifier. Let me, for that, take off the OD. And let's go to the third channel, because that's a little bit more of a lead thing. I mean, of course, the equalization is different on the third channel than it is on the first channel. So let's go ahead, bump that presence, bump that high. Let's leave the mids and the bass where it is. Let's take the gain a little bit away. And yeah, let's leave the depth also in the ballpark. On the palm mutings, you can still hear that it kind of farts out. It has that fizziness to it. Whereas on the second channel, it has a little bit, it retains a little bit more of that clarity of the punch through. So that kind of indicates that this is more of a fizzy channel, but on leads, it sounds pretty good. Let me go back to the factory default presets, and here we got this lead default preset, which sounded really good in my opinion. That is a great lead tone. That is a great lead tone in my opinion. Really works well. It sings well. This is a good basis to kind of work off of that one and then just adjust to your likings. Moving back to the rhythm default, super quickly setting up back what I had before, kind of at least in the ballpark. There we go. Resonance a little bit higher. And then using this back over here. All right, we are again back with this kind of very very tight 5150 style boosted tone over here. Now, this is where the input processing and the output processing become especially helpful. Now, I'm gonna reset all of these things. Hang on. Oh, wait a minute. This was actually okay. dB, 0, everything 0. And I want to high pass everything below 124. And I'm going to do the exact same thing, basically, on the output processing, but a little bit lower. So something like that. So I'm going to take away the low end as well as before I'm entering the amp, as well as after I'm entering the after I'm exiting the amplifier. So this is what it sounds like. Now that significantly cleans up my tone, and I could actually back the gain off even more a little bit, because in this case, it's really like the less gain you have, the more clarity you retain. That's already a great tone over there. I could use that, no problem. Let's move on to the cabinets simulation over here, and then we're going to move into the different clean channels and so on and so forth. So the cabinet section consists of 4 different microphone settings, which you can set up over here very individually. You can already see 1, 2, 3, 4, and you can move them over here in this 3-dimensional field, or you can use the knobs in order to do this. So very interesting, very cool setup that you have like these 4 different things which you can blend. However, this also is a recipe for disaster if you don't know what you're doing, because it's super hard to get a proper sound. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take away 3 and 4. I'm only going to allow for 1 and 2 and going to set up from here onward. Now, you have here the polarity switch, which you can set up. So you can flip the polarity over here. You can turn off or on the speaker. Over here, you can choose between a V30 or a greenback cabinet, and then you have a plethora of different microphones. Over here, you got these, let's say, 3-dimensional, let's say, the positioning, I would say. Then you got the delay. I don't regularly use that. That's maybe to kind of get things more into phase a little bit when you have like one microphone like very close and one microphone like super far away. Then the phase would be a little bit non-aligned, and then you could go ahead and basically with the delay get them to kind of work. The level is here over here, and the panning is over here. Focus is kind of mid-scoop, I think it is, and the contour is kind of a different frequency honk, which you can add. I'm just going to leave them on for until we get our sound, and then we're going to play around with them. Mic level match, as the name says, kind of puts the mic levels into respect, but I don't use that feature because that's what the level are here for. So we are going to turn off speaker 2, go to mic 1. Super quiet. That's why we want to bring it up. All right. I am going to use now mic 3, in fact, because I have an idea. What I want to do is I just want to try out. I have no idea if this is going to work. I just want to try if there is possibility to use the fretman or the fretman technique. So now I got one straight up, one angled, and this is what it sounds like. And let me put this over here to 5-ish. So there we go. Now I know what mic level match does. So in order that you don't get a volume bias, you can set the mic level match, and that will automatically make sure that if you take out one microphone over here, that it will still retain the same volume. This is in fact a good thing. This is in fact a good thing, which I'm going to leave on. So I'm not biased by volume jumps, that I am only biased by the tone which I'm actually getting. All right, let's, for matter of fact, add a ribbon microphone into that field over here. Let's just boost it incredibly loud just for testing the mic level match. It kind of works. I think it's kind of an approximation, at least, of the mic level. So now the ribbon microphone should be quite quiet in the background. That's a sound which I really enjoy. That's a great sound already. Now let's turn off the focus. It takes a little bit of that open mids. I'm not so sure if I like it turned on more or it turned off more. I'll just leave it on, but not that strongly embedded. And now to the contour. It smooths out a lot of that sizzle. I'm gonna leave it on. All right, this would be an awesome thrash tone. So let me save that. Thrash Pip 2. There we go. All right, Thrash Pip 2. This is what it sounds like. All right, losing myself into playing. We got a lot to uncover. So let's move right ahead into the ring modulation. Now, this is going to be very short because I have no idea what I'm doing with this over here. Let me make the mix super low, the amount kind of low, and let's just leave the frequency ultra low and turn that on. I'd bet there's some very, very cool creative stuff which you can use with this. For me, it's just noise. Sorry, guys. I cannot do anything with this, but that's certainly a problem of mine, not of the plugin itself, or not of this particular block itself. It sounds cool. It's interesting. Let me put it that way. All right. Next up, we're going to go for some cleans, actually. Now, the clean channel is something which is very underrated and sounds very good on this plugin. Not so good if you still have the OD engaged. Gonna switch now to the neck pickup. Now that's quite a nice, decent, clean tone over there. So let me dial in. I like lows a lot. Mids not so much. Presence maybe a little bit more. Let's put a little bit more bass onto that. And on this, I don't need the input processing as I had it before anymore. So I don't need this high pass over here going in, and maybe also not when I'm going out. Still gonna leave the EQs on just to make sure that I got them at availability at all times. Now, what could be interesting is to set up a compressor. All right, so all right, so that compressor setting already works for me quite well. Yeah, let's move on to adding now interesting stuff to that clean tone. First off, the chorus. That's a little bit too much. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the rate a little bit smaller, the depth way smaller. Mix them. That's a nice chorus over there. That's really good. So there are a lot of chorus plugins in Guitar Suites which I find absolutely horrid, but this one really is superb. This really sounds good. That sounds great. Now, this becomes even more, let's say, useful if I add a reverb. I always like to add my time-based stuff behind the amplifier, just in case you are wondering. Now, this is a kind of a trial and error thing, so I'm going to turn off the chorus very shortly to kind of find the right tone. That's a little bit too much high-end, too much treble, so I'm going to back the tone back. That's more of what I like. I'm gonna add a little bit less decay. Okay, so we got these three different things. We got the room, the hall, and the shimmer. I like the shimmer actually a lot when dialing in the tone back because it's a little bit stronger and a little bit more prominent than the hall reverb. It's a nice clean tone. Let's combine that now with delay. Okay, here we go. Delay is a little bit hard for me to kind of grasp because we got this dual thing going on over here, and we got this ping pong delay. Let me try that out. Need a little bit quicker. That's too quick. Still a little bit too quick. Now, on this time-based effects, I have to say I have to dial back the wet part of it a little bit more so that I get more of the clean signal. That's nice. That's very subtle, kind of just in the background. When it comes to feedback, put that a little bit back. Tone, also, I like it when the delay tails are not that prominent in your face. We got different stuff over here. Lo-fi, analog, and also reverse. Reverse is cool. You can do some wacky stuff if you take away the dry, put the wet back up, and then... So that's cool. If you play around with the bends, you get that weird stuff. Really like that. And I like the fact that you have this possibility within this plugin. So reverb is set, delay is set. Let's go back to the chorus. Let's turn that on. Hang on, there we go. Sorry guys, my clean plane absolutely sucks balls, but I just want to show this because I think that the clean channel on this is really, really great and also really underrated. So what else do we have? I think we have spoken through most of the stuff over here. Let me quickly save this as clean pip. So there we go, clean pip, and we got thrash pip. So, That's a super awesome tone. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go now through the transpose function. Yeah, the transpose function. That's something which we haven't discussed at all. So I got to set first my volume here louder, because when you got the transpose function engaged and you don't have enough volume, it's going to sound horrible, because you're going to hear what your strings are playing, and you're going to hear together that with the box, and it's going to sound super, super weird because you got the dissonance. But with the transpose set and loudness more engaged, you're going to get more of a feel that you're actually just hearing what you're playing, and you're going to get a better feel for the latency of the plugin, which is not that big. It's absolutely playable. This guitar is usually tuned to EB standard, but I tuned it up 1/2 step so that I got E standard for my occasional Metallica shredding. Not going to play Metallica riffs over here because I'm going to get then copyright striked. It's turned off. This is what it sounds like not turned on. So that's really cool. It really sounds good. Nothing to complain about, but that also goes for down tuning. Let me down tune it 4 semitones. So, yeah, bonus points if you recognize that riff, which I totally butchered, by the way. Let me try to play that solo. Back then when I was still digging Amon Amarth. So yeah, that sounds pretty good. That sounds very usable. Transpose that for 1 semitones, and you can do on the EB guitar stuff like Gojira. So awesome feature over here that you got this embedded in there. It sounds good. The latency is usable. I could easily see that you kind of, in production, you want to kind of tune down your guitars and your bass. You just use that to transpose it, and then yeah, and then you kind of just experiment with different tunings. How does a song sound best, and what tuning, and so on and so forth. All right, let's call it a day because I think I have talked already way too much on this video. What are my conclusions? Let's get into that section. All right, my conclusion is this is an awesome plugin. I know I say that on every single video because I'm more of a positive guy than I'm of a negative guy. I'm just so happy that we have these cool plugins at our disposal. But on this one, I really actually mean it. Like, this is a great addition to the portfolio so far. It has all the features which you could ask for. It has a ton of flexibility. The clean tone sounds phenomenally good. You have super creative ways of working by moving the signal chain blocks to your likings. The core sounds good. Reverb, delay. The chug sound good on this plugin. There's a cool lead preset with the third amplifier. Transpose functionality. It has everything which you want to ask for. So if you dig that tone, then this is the right plugin for you. Absolutely, 100%. I can recommend. I think from the latest releases, this is the best one out there. Sorry, Bogren, have to say how it is. The MLC Sub-Zero is a cool plugin. Absolutely nothing against it. But this one kind of hits it out of the park in terms of features and functionality. This is priced at $79. I think it's somewhere around 70 euros, and I think taxes will be added, so it will be perhaps 85 to 90 euros. This is not a sponsored video by any means. I just saw it. I saw the trial, and I got it. You have to register to their newsletter for getting the trial. Cheeky move on their side, but I don't mind. You know, like, who cares? It's just an email, which occasionally flies in. And I can do them the favor for getting to do this review, getting to check out this plugin for free for 7 days without any crippled functionality or something. Yeah, that's my take on Mixwave Mic Stringer. Awesome plugin. Try it for yourself. I'm going to put the link in the description below. And yeah, let me know what you think about this plugin in the comment. Have you tried it out for yourself? What are your experiences with Mixwave plugins in general? Have you seen Spiritbox live? What is your take on their music? Just let's engage in the comment section, and do me a favor, let me know if the audio quality of the microphone is better and kind of more balanced out in regards of volume to the guitars, because I was working very heavily on that front to get a good sound, which is kind of plug and play for me to crank out more content, because I think the channel's worth it. You guys are worth it. You have supported me so much. Thank you so much for watching this video. We're going to see each other very, very soon. And until then, stay metal.